but I'm glad to see everyone's logging in and everyone's here and joining us. I know we had originally planned to be able to deliver some pre-made dough to our local folks, but unfortunately the weather just simply made that impossible. So if anybody had a chance to see the recipe we sent out and made dough, you're welcome to bring out that dough now and have that handy. And otherwise, we'll just learn from Bethany. And then we've got about 5 more days before Purim to figure out how to make our own.
That's right.
But I have some.
Yeah, I was looking at making it, but we're short on eggs and hardly any milk and stuff. And I was like, the way the stores are, we just went to Kroger and they're running out of everything too.
Yeah.
Bob, I've got lots and lots of eggs. So if you want some eggs this week, I'd be happy to give you some.
I did get a dozen just now. They had those. Yeah, but I didn't know I think I had like 4 eggs left in the house. I didn't want to, I was like, they're precious. I don't know if I want to use them for cookie dough.
Yeah, you have to prioritize sometimes.
I got lucky. I actually went to Sam's Club the day before the storm and made sure I stocked up on everything I could stock up on. But even we're running low on stuff. Even being prepared that way, we're already down to our last dozen eggs.
We're using things from our pantry that we buy thinking of times like this, which we never have. So it's, we're like, oh, I guess we'll finally eat this thing. Canned soup and beans and things that usually, we don't get around to. Looking in the depths of the freezer for mysteries at block bags of things.
Yeah, I think there's stuff in my freezer from the cooking school days still. That's pretty old already.
Yeah, so we've kind of cleared out in our freezers and our pantry.
We made a little dent in it.
Why don't we get started here? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hamentashen with Bethany. My name is Rabbi Feivel Rubinstein. I'm the program director for the North Louisiana Jewish Federation. And this is our wonderful executive director, our fearless, multi-talented executive director, Bethany, who will be leading us in our program today. I'm so glad that you could all join us and make it. As I mentioned earlier, we had bigger hopes for this event in terms of being able to hand out dough and see what everyone's fillings were going to be and have it be a very, fun, creative thing. But God had different plans with the weather to make everyone's lives a little bit more difficult. But I'm still so glad to see everybody that's here. And we still have another 5 days before Purim. So I hope that if you didn't make dough ahead of time and you don't have that in front of you, that this program inspires you to make dough between now and Thursday and make your Hamentashen and fill it with whatever goodies you have. I do just see that one other person just registered, so we might see more people joining us.
Making dough seems like too much of a chore, you can buy prepared cookie dough in the refrigerator and freezer case. At least most times in places. I haven't been to the store in a long time. There we go.
There you go, Lauren Marker modeling for us. We appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and
I think it's even already rolled out and then rolled up like those prepared pie crusts. So it's really,
that's nice.
All right, I'm going to tip my screen down a little bit
Bethany, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you here so everyone can see your screen a little bigger.
Feivel, if you wouldn't mind just keeping an eye on the chat. So if anybody wants to put a question or a comment in the chat, and then Feivel, if you could read it out, because my hands will be goopy and also my screen is all full of pictures of you guys. So
absolutely, I will do just that.
So to start with, I usually just go ahead and roll out my dough on parchment paper. And my dough is in the fridge, so I'm going to run get it. So if you have dough, you can go ahead and get it out. If you made a whole recipe, you probably don't want to roll it all out at once because that will just be too big for the average cookie sheet. So I'm going to put just a little bit of flour on my parchment paper. And then I'm going to smash my dough down. This is the really fun part. Smashing. Well, one of the fun parts. And then a little more flour. And then some more parchment paper. And then the rolling pin.
So Bethany, I was just telling everyone they can type questions in the chat. But Bethany, I actually have a question here because I noticed your rolling pin has little like levelers on the sides. Is that helpful?
Yes, I usually use just a flat rolling pin like this. I mean, you can use a bottle, anything that's flat and cylindrical.
Does it help to have the dough?
It has a little offset, and it helps you to make it very even.
And is that an important thing for Hamentashen to have it even, or does it not matter if it's a little lumpy?
It does not have to be. I mean, really, in my opinion, it's good if it's a little bit even, because then it will bake evenly. But if it doesn't have to be so precise.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah, we don't have parchment paper. Should I just roll it out on our baking sheet?
Or would wax paper
If your
work?
baking sheet doesn't have edges that would get in the way, that might work, or you can just do it on a floured surface and then pick it up and put it on your baking sheet.
Okay.
I have never tried that, but I do tend to work on my baking sheet when I get a little further along in the process.
I will say that from when I bake challah, I don't have a big enough surface to really lay out parchment paper. It kind of gets messy everywhere. So I actually just flour my surface. And if you flour it nicely, you should be able to pick up the dough just fine to transfer it.
Yes. Also, you can use waxed paper for this part, but you can't bake. I mean, you could, but wax would melt into your food. So wax paper is not so good for baking on. So I have a 3-inch diameter cookie cutter. It can really, you can make them any size you want. You can make a bigger or smaller, whatever you have, a jar, a glass. But you start with a round cookie cutter. Now, I see mostly faces, so I can't tell how people are doing with their rolling.
Bethany, I got a question.
Yeah.
So how thick is that cookie dough? Like 1/8 of an inch, or?
Yes, this is about 1/8 of an inch, but
Okay.
it's really a matter of personal taste and like how much you want to mess around with it. It's really fine if you make it thicker.
Okay.
If it's a lot thicker than 1/8 of an inch, what we want to do is preheat our oven to 400 degrees for a cookie about this thick. If you made it a lot thicker, you might want to turn it down so the inside of the dough would cook by the time the outside got brown.
Bethany, should people start preheating their ovens right now?
Yes.
So
Let's go ahead and turn our
400
ovens on,
degrees.
so they have time to preheat, so that when we're done with this part, we can go ahead and put them in the oven.
So
What,
anybody who's-
I'm sorry, Rabbi, if I could, and
Please.
Bethany, what temperature did y'all say? I couldn't hear you quite well.
Sorry, I was crackling. 400 degrees.
Okay.
You know, an alternative to the parchment paper is those silicone mats they sell.
Oh, yeah. If you have a Silpat, those are really great too.
Yeah, they fit right into the quarter size sheet pan really well.
Yeah. So once I cut out my cookies, I'm going to just go ahead and lay them on my cookie sheet. And this cookie sheet is a little bit bigger than a quarter size, restaurant type of pan, but it's a pretty typical cookie sheet size, and it'll fit 12 3-inch circles, 3 by 4 circles readily. So Hamentashen, it's all about geometry because you're turning a circle into a triangle. And you're making your blob of dough into a plane. It's all kind of geometrical stuff.
Do it.
Another thing that you want to be having on hand for once your circles are done are your fillings, whatever they may be. Usually I buy canned poppy seed filling because that's a traditional filling that a lot of people like, but I couldn't go to the store this week, so I won't be making poppy or prune. I had some hazelnut spread in my pantry, so I'm using that. It's like Nutella. I have some apricot jam, and I have some blackberry jam.
And you said you were going to make chocolate. If you made chocolate, what would you use?
Well, you can just put some chocolate chips in.
Chocolate chips.
Mhm.
Okay.
That works really well. Just a few chocolate chips will make a nice filling. And then once the cookie has cooled, it will resume its kind of firmer chocolate chippy texture, whereas a spread like this will be softer. But either way, it's delicious. Also, if you have pie filling of any kind, that works great.
Yeah, that's what
Kisses.
I'm using, the raspberry, because my son does not like poppy or prune. But I
Well,
have
you have to consider
prune
what your
for
people
me.
like. That is for sure.
And can't you use Nutella?
Yes, this is actually sort of knockoff Nutella, this hazelnut spread.
Okay.
Nutella is a nice filling.
All right, then I'll get it.
So I have 2 teaspoons in each of my jars of filling so that I don't have to stick my finger in it.
You could use the top to the sugar thing. It isn't. Look at what she's using. Oh.
Take it plate.
Oh.
Usually on the Sunday before the Purim carnival at religious school, we would be making hundreds of Hamentashen for kids to have for snack and for people to take home and for the congregations to have for their Oneg Shabbat. But this year, with one thing and another, we aren't doing that.
This is a different year.
Yes,
I will say from my own childhood, whenever people are making both poppy seed and chocolate to give out to kids, you always really want to make sure they're labeled properly, because the undiscerning child will grab a poppy seed and then be very upset that it was not the chocolate they thought they were getting. But
yeah,
surely that didn't happen to me every single year on Purim.
yes. I like to make, well, when we start folding them up, we'll talk about this. I had some bakers that I worked with that liked to fold the Hamentashen very closely together because they thought it was a happy surprise to, you know, get whatever kind, but I am not a fan of that kind of surprise. So I like to fold them in such a way that you can look at them and have some chance of telling what they are.
I think I speak for all picky eaters when I say we appreciate that.
Okay, how's everybody doing? Do we have some circles on a baking sheet?
Mhm.
We're getting
All right,
there.
Mark, you got some circles. Dodson's, I see Cadence has given us a thumbs up. Oh, yeah, Justin's holding up a little circle of dough there. Roberta gave us a thumbs up. I like it. Getting some circles.
So I've got some circles here. And my circles are still fairly cool. If you've handled your dough a lot and it's gotten really soft, you might want to put your baking sheet in your fridge or your freezer for a moment. That will make it a little more manageable. And also if they're cool, when you put them in the oven, they don't spread out as much. But really, to me, a spread out cookie is still a cookie. So I'm not super concerned about that personally. Okay.
Hello.
So I've got my 12.
Making Hamentashen with the people in.
We're good. You can keep going.
I've got these 12 circles and I've got 3 kinds of filling. So I'm going to go ahead and do 4 cookies with each kind of filling.
Now, Bethany, how much filling is recommended for these? Is there such a thing as too much filling?
Not put very much filling, because if the filling comes out, it will burn. And you know, you can't stack them up as easily because they're all covered with sticky filling. So I use like a half a teaspoon of filling per cookie. So what I like to do is fill up my 1 spoon with my half a teaspoon, put it in the middle-ish of the circle, and scrape it off with the other spoon. So it's really not a lot.
That looks more like a half a tablespoon.
No, this is a teaspoon. I mean, it's a heaping teaspoon.
Okay.
It might be, I'd say this might be a scant teaspoon if you actually measured it with a measuring spoon.
Okay.
It's, yeah, don't put more than that because, well, that's just
Well,
my advice.
Yeah, well, it'll leak out and burn, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm taking notes.
So this is, it's like a taco or a burrito. You have to take it easy or you're not going to be able to wrap it up and get it in your mouth satisfactorily.
You get real wet?
Yeah.
Same thing with my apricot here.
You can finish.
And finally, with my hazelnut spread or Nutella or, you know, thing like that. And if you were going to use chocolate chips, I'd say maybe, you know, 3 or 4 chocolate chips and sort of put them in a little mound, or a single Hershey's Kiss if you have those.
Dina made some last week and she put caramel and coconut in them.
Oh, yummy.
They were-
Ooh, interesting.
yeah.
And so, you know,
Little
I've
twist.
made savory Hamentashen before where I used a pie crust and put like, you know, pesto or chopped spinach and feta or, you know, I mean, really you could make a pizza one. It would be fun.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Actually, that does sound fun. I think I might make a Hamentashen calzone for Purim. So I've got my little dabs of filling. How's everybody else doing? Are you getting ready for folding? Oh yeah, Dodsons are ready.
I
That's
see some nods. I see some thumbs up. I like
so,
it.
let's see, I'm gonna just,
What fillings did everyone choose? What are you guys making? Feel free to unmute yourselves and let us know.
yeah. Roberta was telling us her son does not like poppy and prune, so she's doing a different thing.
I'm
Dodson, what are
doing
you guys doing?
Raspberry, but I do have prune for me.
Ah,
Prune
okay.
is the favorite
Nice.
at my house, so I'm gonna have to find some ingredients for prune and make it later in the week.
Well,
I would
Mine,
probably
I'm-
use like strawberry preserves if I was making them right now.
Yes, strawberry, blueberry, really any fruit, preserve, pie filling, jam kind of thing is
Dominic, what filling did you put in?
Did you put it?
What filling did you put in?
Tell him, buddy.
Tell her, tell Rabbi.
Tell us all.
Tell us all, tell us. You tell her.
Jelly and chocolate.
Ooh, jelly and
Yummy.
chocolate. Nice. I like it. All right.
all right. So now we're ready to fold. So we're gonna
You ready to fold?
let me just prop up
Everybody
one.
pick one and we'll fold it.
We're gonna take it and just pinch one corner together like this. And then right across from the pinch, we're gonna fold it up and make two more pinches. So it's a triangle. Did that make sense to everybody? Give it a try and ask any questions. So you start on one side and then you just fold the flat side.
Bethany, could you shift to your left just a little bit so we can actually see the, if you just move everything to the left as you're doing it, we can watch your hands.
Okay.
Your left. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
I'm gonna pinch one side together and then right across from the pinch, I'm just gonna fold it up and pinch two sides.
I'll be honest, I thought there were going to be more steps to it than that.
That's all there is. You just pinch them together.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm like picturing massive origami steps here.
It's pretty simple. So you wanna, some people get the dough a little bit wet if it's dry and it's not sticking together, but my dough is nice and soft and it's sticking together just fine. And so, and like I say, I leave them kind of open in the middle so I can see what's what in there once it's cooked. I wouldn't call myself a picky eater, but I have trepidation about biting something that I, don't know what to expect.
And Bethany, you should put this on YouTube after you're done.
Yeah, I bet there's some YouTubes about Hamentashen making, which is good because Hamentashen making is fun.
We can throw this up on our Federation YouTube.
There you go. Good idea. All right, so I just did it right on my baking sheet, so I don't have to move my cookies, but you could totally do this on your countertop or on, your cutting board and then scooch them over to the baking sheet. They probably aren't going to spread out a lot, but these are, you know, 1.5 inches apart or so, 12 on this sort of, I don't know, this is probably 16 by 14 inches or something like that. And let's see, my oven is preheated. So I'm gonna pop them in and I'm gonna set my timer for 13 minutes.
So I'll type that in the chat in case anybody missed it. So it looks like 13 minutes in the oven. Bethany, do you recommend top rack, middle rack, bottom rack?
I usually, well, it depends on how many cookies I have to make, if I have to cook multiple, you know, cookie sheets at once, but if you're just making them one sheet at a time, put them right in the middle and set your timer for 13 minutes. And I'm going to start on another batch because I have a lot of cookie sheets. So I can make another cookie sheet full while this one's baking.
Sounds like that's also a really nice strategy if you're making a bunch, because as you're filling and folding your new batch, your first batch is cooking and you can just swap them right out.
Yes. Now, if you only have one cookie sheet, it's a really good idea to let it cool off in between batches. If you put your cookies on a really warm cookie sheet, they'll start to melt, and that will present some manageability and spreading issues. So if you have more than one cookie sheet, you can start your next batch right on the cookie sheet, or you can just wait for your cookie sheet to cool off and put them on another surface while you're waiting for that to happen. One thing I do when I'm going to make a lot of cookies is I roll out my dough on these pieces of parchment paper and I just stack them up in the refrigerator while the dough is still soft, and I chill them flat, and that sort of saves me a little time.
Can you see ours?
Here's our first attempt.
Oh, that looks great. Ready for the oven.
Bethany, where did you get that cookie cutter from?
You know, I'm old and I have a lot of cookie cutters, so I don't remember.
Okay.
But, you know, I like to browse around in kitchen stores. I like this one because it has this kind of scalloped edge and then a plain edge. So and it doesn't have a handle that's gonna like break if you press on it too hard.
Right.
So
Yeah, it looks like a good
I have like
cutter.
nesting ones of this that get smaller and smaller.
Right.
So I use the smaller one, like if I'm gonna make teeny little tarts in a mini muffin pan.
Okay.
There's a smaller one that's just the right size for that.
I was
Or if
maybe
you
you're-
have children or grandchildren that like to have a tea party and you want to make their sandwiches be a shape, or make, I have a
Yeah.
lot of things like that just because.
Yeah, they need one that takes the crust off of the like the Wonder Bread or something. Or something. They always
Right.
want the crust cut off,
Right, right. That's dangerous if you're a grandparent who likes the crust best. You eat so much crust.
Yeah, that's what I wind up doing. I eat all their leftovers.
Yeah. So I have filled up another tray with circles. I'm gonna fill those so I can put another sheet of cookies in the oven when this one comes out. And as you cut your cookies out, of course, you can bundle up your leftover dough and roll it out again and make more cookies.
I have a question, Bethany.
Yes.
If you make the recipe, the dough recipe, but you don't want to make that many Hamentashen, can you freeze the dough and for how long?
Yes, this dough freezes really well. And I would say it would be fine for, several months in the freezer. I mean, like 4, maybe before it started, ingredients started to degrade if it's really well wrapped up. Or if you wanted to, you could roll it out and freeze it flat so that, or even cut it out into whatever shapes you might want in the future. And then they'd be like ready to go. You could put them on a cookie sheet, frozen, put them in the oven.
And if anybody ever has extra sugar cookies, I can think of a few religious school students who might be more than happy to help.
That's right. There's usually not a problem with leftover sweets around my house.
And now it's Girl Scout cookie season coming up here. I'm excited.
Yeah. I need to find somebody who's selling Girl Scout cookies and buy my. Now that's something that keeps in the freezer. I dole my Thin Mints out to myself all year long.
Oh yeah, Thin Mints in the freezer are by far the best. Ooh, that could be something. We could make a Thin Mint Hamentashen.
You sure could.
Just crush up some Thin Mints, put that in the middle.
Yeah, or you could get those Andes mint cookies and break them in half and put them in there, or, any chocolate mint flavored thing.
I think it was at Dollar Tree. I saw Thin Mint cookie cereal.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds dangerous. I feel like I'd go through the box.
Yeah, that's Thin Mint cookie cereal. That seems kind of dangerous. I would gain 50 pounds just by eating that every day.
Just off of breakfast.
Just off of breakfast, yeah.
It's so cute to watch the kids working, the Dodson kids.
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm really glad that you Dodsons are here.
The Dodsons were part of our local religious school until they hit the road, and now they join us virtually from Oklahoma.
Where are you, Dodsons?
Yes, ma'am. We are right now. We are in Oklahoma City.
Oh, wow.
My wife, she is a travel nurse, working the COVID ICU up here in Oklahoma City. And we are, for right now at least, we are a traveling family. So we don't know exactly where we're going to go next contract, but next month we'll head to a different location in a different area, and we will just continue to join everybody virtually. So yeah, we watched.
You guys had some really good cold weather there, Justin.
Yes, yeah, we did. We got I want to say at the highest, I think we got 2.5 foot of snow.
Wow.
During the whole storm, and we lost water pressure, and we didn't lose water, thankfully, but we did lose water pressure, and our electricity did go out for about a day. But I think the infrastructure up here in Oklahoma City is a little bit prepared for stuff like that, prepared for ice storms. So we are very fortunate to not have been affected too much by the storm.
Well, they certainly couldn't be less prepared than Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's we have family and friends who live in Texas, and they are and they're going through a really hard time. Me and Amanda, we had talked about opening our door and inviting them up here, but unfortunately it was more dangerous for them to travel than it was for them to just stay put. So we are very fortunate.
Have been pretty scary.
Perhaps when the mail system's moving again, you guys can send your friends and family some Hamentashen that you made during.
Yes.
During the
yes. We will actually be back in Shreveport at the end of this week. So we are looking forward to being home for a little while before we go to our next contract. Yeah.
That was one of my questions. Do you have any suggestions of how to pack them for shipping?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
Is I freeze them.
Uh-huh.
And then I wrap them, I put them in a, I either put them in a like a little 2 per, snack bag type of Ziploc bag, because usually I'm sending them to individuals, and I just send 2 or 3. And then I wrap.
No, one year I took a gallon bag to my son and my cousin, and I never saw anything disappear so fast. So I don't think a couple in a snack size bag will work.
Right. Okay. So put it.
Wait a minute.
If you have a lot and you want to keep them flat, maybe put them on a little piece of cardboard or something like that. And then, oh, there goes my timer. I put them in something rigid, like then wrap them in some bubble wrap and then put them in a box.
You think that is brown enough?
Oh, wow.
That looks perfect.
That's great.
Okay.
I also just want to observe here. I want to point out what Bethany is doing. I just noticed she's put a little bit of water in top of a lid, and she's using that to make the edges of her dough a little stickier so she can fold the corners.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, if you have like a little floury place or a little dry place, just get your finger wet. I just used my lid of my jam jar and just tap it on that little area, and that will make it sticky, and then you can make your corners seal together so your filling doesn't come out. So I took my first batch out of the oven, and it looks like this. They're pretty brown. My oven is pretty warm, so I might put them in for 12 minutes next time, but They're still edible. I feel pretty confident.
They won't go to waste.
And no filling came out, although there's one that opened up a little bit here and tried to make a getaway, but it worked. It stayed in there.
They look great. They look nice and golden brown. Sandra said that they're not going to go to waste. That's for sure.
Yeah. So this is what they look like on the bottom. This, you know, they're a little bit brown, and you can see in the top and make a guess of what kind of filling that is. And that's especially important if you have someone who's who has a nut allergy. You wouldn't want them to eat the Nutella one without knowing. Actually, when I'm plating them up for a group, I just keep the Nutella ones completely separate.
I think we may have overfilled ours because ours just turned into, they kind of look like dumplings.
Oh,
But like I said, they will not go to waste.
that's right. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad Hamentashen,
There
especially
you go.
if you're not trying to send it anywhere.
Right.
It
Yeah.
can be, you know, you can eat it with a spoon if that's what you need to do.
Perfect. See, look at, that's what I'm talking about. See, Cadence knows how to make hers perfect. Perfect triangle.
That looks fantastic.
I could do anything, but I couldn't remember.
Daddy will help you, Bobby.
You know,
I don't know if you can hear me, but I lost my sound.
oh,
yeah,
I
we
can
we
hear
can hear
you,
you, Roberta.
I don't know what happened.
You can't hear us? Here, I'll chat.
Good, Cadence.
All right, one more. Oh yeah, let me make some more. Actually, you know what? I think let's put yours, because yours are going to be way better. Let's mute this real quick. So we don't.
So is this batch number 3, Bethany?
Yes, I'm starting on batch number 3.
Man, Bethany flies through these. Goodness.
Yeah, actually, I made a batch earlier, and I put them on when they get cool enough to handle, I just put them on this wire rack so that the bottoms don't get steamy. But not everybody has a wire rack. But if you want to, one thing, if you're making multiple batches, you might need your cookie sheet. And also, if you just put them on a cooler surface, they'll stay crispier on the bottom. But you know, soft is also good, so. I'm going to go ahead and bake all my dough up because I am going to need quite a few Hamentashen. I'll probably make a second batch of this sugar cookie dough also, because we're going to bring them around to people in Shreveport who are shut-in. So that's practically everyone this week, but certain, you know, elderly people and ill people, and we're going to mail some to college students. So the Federation needs quite a few Hamentashen.
So I have a question, Rabbi, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, please.
Remind me again, what is this? What is Hamentashen? Like can you tell us again, maybe kind of, I mean, I know everyone else here is very Jewish, and I am the most un-Jewish person in my personal family. because of course Amanda teaches religious school and does Hebrew with Rabbi Sidney, and Cadence does Hebrew and all the kids here. But I kind of learn as I go. So can you give us some information?
Yeah, a limited amount of information, to be totally honest. I don't know much about the history of the Hamentashen and where this tradition started, or how old the tradition is. What I can tell you is that part of the story of Purim is to remember what Haman did to the Jewish people, or at least tried to do to the Jewish people, tried to wipe us out. And of course, Queen Esther, famously in our story, is our heroine of the story, and ends up saving the people. And Haman ends up becoming the person who is hanged at the gallows instead of all of the Jewish people. And the Hamentashen in Hebrew are actually called Oznei Haman. And what an ozen is an ear. So Oznei Haman are Haman's ears. And why they're called that, honestly, I would have to look up the history of that. But the idea is that the three-cornered shape represents the three-cornered hat of Haman. And I don't know why we're eating Haman. Again, I'm not really sure where the history of that comes from, but it is a very, very, very old tradition to have Hamentashen on Purim as a fun way to remember the story. Like most traditions, when it comes to remembering story, a lot of the traditions are almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like the memory devices that we use. What's the word I'm looking for?
Mnemonic?
Thank you. They're almost like mnemonic devices, but in a picture form. So we're remembering the story of Haman and the story of Purim by making Hamentashen and seeing it and remembering that these are Oznei Haman, the ears of Haman, for some reason.
Right.
But let's see if I can find real quickly online. I've got a couple fun websites that are.
Oh, I didn't mean to put you to work, Rabbi. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good to go. I'm not baking at the moment. So let's see if I can find.
Pockets.
Say again.
And it's an Ashkenazi thing, so an Eastern European thing.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's neat.
It is interesting that we would choose to have Haman be the person who's remembered in a yummy food. Of course, there's always yummy food as part of a celebration.
So I just want to share, in case this sheds any light whatsoever, there are a few really great Jewish educational websites that are out there that typically have really lovely in-depth histories of various topics that you wouldn't otherwise think of. One of them is called mygewishlearning.com, though I find that to be a less user-friendly website. Another one is called Jewish Virtual Library. And usually they have a lot of academics and rabbis who write these big, lovely articles about some of the history of these types of things. And I just checked both of them, and both of them simply have recipes. Neither one of them goes into the history a bit. So that would be an interesting thing to learn, is how far back do Hamentashen date and where does that tradition start? It's out of my wheelhouse in terms of my understanding of the holiday.
Our first batch has arrived out of the oven.
Ooh, wonderful. Let's see.
They kind of flattened, but let's see. There they are.
Our triangle just totally flattened into circles.
They did. They opened up a bit. Bethany,
Yeah, they opened up a lot.
But they do look tasty.
They do.
Bethany, any tips and tricks for preventing them from opening?
This dough that I'm using is meant to be cooked at 400 degrees, but perhaps the cookie dough that you're using has a different temperature that's recommended, which I should have thought of. And also, you could put them and the baking sheet, like after they're all assembled, try putting them in the refrigerator for a little while and then put them in the oven, and then they'll spread out a little less.
Okay, we don't mind.
There's
They'll
nothing
be-
wrong with a circular cookie. I don't think there's anything in the historical record to say that how Haman's ears were shaped, really. So.
Well, everyone, our first batch is done, so we're going to say goodbye and thank you so much for having this program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for baking with us. We're so happy to have you. Since people might be finishing up here, I'll just give a couple of little announcements here just for everyone. We are having our Purim Carnival also online next week. So it'll be 1 week from today at, what time did we say that was going to be? I believe 10:30 Central Time. So that's 8:30 for those of you that are West Coasters and 12:30 if anybody here is on the East Coast. But we'll have that next Sunday at 10:30 Central Time. I do want to encourage everyone to join us. Registration is free online. And we do have our annual Mishloach Manot raffle going on. So you're welcome to buy raffle tickets. Those will mail out to our winner. We've got some fun games that we're going to play online. We've got a Purim spiel from our religious school students. So if anybody is available on Sunday, the 28th at 10:30 Central, please, by all means, you can find more information about that on our website, jewishnla.org. So that's Jewish North Louisiana, jewishnla.org. I'll type it in the chat here. And we welcome everyone. The more the merrier for our Purim Carnival. And you're welcome to stay on with us and chat a little longer and watch Bethany finish up her third batch over here. Otherwise, if your cookies are done and you'd like to log off, then we just want to thank you for coming and supporting our small little federation out here. We always feel like we're part of a bigger community when everyone can join us online and be a part of these programs.
Yes, thank you so much. It was really fun to do with you all. And if you come to the carnival next week, I'll see you then.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bethany. Thanks, Rabbi.
For those that are still on, I will say that apparently Time Magazine wrote an article in 2017 on how Hamentashen got their name. And I guess it's from the German word for Haman's pockets. Sounds like the word moan sounds like Haman, and it's supposed to represent something like the bribes that Haman was making to hurt the Jews or something along that line.
Oh, and what is the it could be that poppy was the main filling at the time, because aren't poppy seed filling ones are called moen or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. Here we are. Okay. So somewhere in the 18th or 19th century in Germany and Eastern Europe. So we're really talking a very recent tradition here. Triangular pastry pocket filled with poppy seeds were called Hamentashen. Mon meaning poppy seed and tash meaning pocket. So they were pockets of poppy seeds. Then the word became a pun around Purim because Ozne Haman plus Hamentashen creates Hamentashen. So you had Ozne Hamentashen. So it was the name caught on in part thanks to Eliezer ben Yehuda. Wow, Eliezer ben Yehuda, for those that don't know, is the person who is responsible for bringing Hebrew back to life in the 19th century. So that's very cool. So that's where it comes from a German.
It started out as poppy seed pocket.
Yeah.
And because it sounded like something else, it morphed.
It morphed, exactly.
That's just how we do things, we humans, with our language.
That makes it a lot more sense, I think. All righty. Well, I think that's where we'll end our program here. So I'll go ahead and end the call here in a second. But thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope your Hamentashen tastes amazing. And we look forward to seeing everyone at our Purim Carnival.
Thank you very much for hosting, Rabbi Feivel.
Thank you. I've been
So good to see
really
you all.
excited to do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful.
And
wonderful.
I did cut my baking time back on the second batch, but I had to add a couple minutes to it because it needs the 13 apparently.
Okay.
That's a good tip for others to have. We'll make sure we put that in the notes of our YouTube video here.
That's
Well,
right. Your results may vary.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, take
Okay,
care
thank
and
you
Chag
very much.
Purim Sameach early.
Thank you. Bye-bye.